Hello and welcome to Sutro Sidetalk, episode 190. I am your host, Kamran Shushtar, and with me is
James Seelig.
today we are here to talk, a double feature. First off, we're going to hit up John Wick Chapter 4, followed by Evil Dead Rise. So, kind of the more fun action and horror films that have come out recently. Unfortunately, I never got to see Scream 6 when it was in theaters, so we'll have to wait for that one. If anything, I might do like a Scream special episode eventually and just kind of talk all of them. It'll be a fun thing. But I'd get people that enjoy that stuff on for that episode. Kind of like when I do those Gundam episodes and potential future One Piece stuff that I really want to do, because that's not going to be one episode. One Piece is way too big for one episode.
Yeah.
At the very least, it'll probably be a minimum of 3, but it might probably be more depending on how it goes. This is, of course, Sutro Sidetalk, though. We talk what we watch and play. And we, like I said, doing movies this week. You can comment, send us feedback, or ask us questions at sutrosidetalk@gmail.com. If you want to ask us questions on next week's episode before we record it, so we can answer them on the episode, we're going to do a Marvel episode next week. It'll be a double feature again. It'll be Ant-Man Wasp Quantumania, so that new Ant-Man movie, followed by Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And we're going to probably have Ryan on from Across the Bifrost, the Mighty Thor podcast. So that'll be cool. But that's next week. After that, we'll see what happens. We'll talk a little bit about it at the end of the episode of what potentially will happen, just because there's another set of traveling going on for another week. But otherwise, no news. Once again, I'm kind of happy. I don't want to talk news because we're going to be up to our next in news in like a month once the summer starts.
Yeah.
We'll have an Xbox showcase, Summer Game Fest. And
there's so many things I hope to see.
I'm sure Netflix will bring back their
the
Geek
Xbox
Week
thing.
Yeah. And I think Sony might have a show too that'll showcase probably Spider-Man.
There's rumors of a Sony showcase coming up soon.
Yeah.
We'll see about that.
Because there's so many mystery games from both studios or both publishers. I mean, Xbox is kind of more annoying because of we know what they're doing and we haven't seen anything.
Paris Lilly posted a list of like all the things that he hopes to see at the Xbox showcase, and by far for me the number one is Avowed. Like, I hate that we've seen the one trailer for that and then nothing.
Remember Fable?
Right. I literally forgot about that.
Oh, remember that, dude? Remember that quad A game, 4 A's, Perfect Dark, with the studio that totally kind of abandoned itself, and now Crystal Dynamics is helping them out with it.
Like, everything about that Perfect Dark story sounds like just a massive clusterfuck.
Yeah,
it's bad.
And it's like, I'm not trying to start shit. It's just like, dude,
no, it's just really unfortunate. I feel so bad for them.
Everything about this has just been chaotic and ridiculous and messy. And it's like all these things announced, then nothing happened after. But at least like we're getting Starfield, and it might be good. Maybe. They're putting a lot of faith in it, but also they put a lot of faith in Redfall, and that I wanted to talk about that. So I did start playing Redfall before when it came, right when it launched. Yeah. And I'm very
Is it as bad as they say?
I was so like, I did not care about anything going on. And there's a lot. I made notes for all the specific.
Oh yeah, you read me some of your notes.
Yeah. And I want to talk about them. I'm just like, should I? So here's the choice, guys. Option A, stop short of the hour or 2 hours I played of just being like, what the fuck am I playing? And just talk about that. Or option B, force myself to play more, not maybe the whole game, but maybe another like 6 hours or something, enough to get like a day's worth in of getting farther into the game to really grasp more about it, and then talk about it on an episode pretty soon, probably like when I get back from the wedding sometime. It wouldn't take a whole episode. It probably wouldn't even take more than 30 minutes, honestly, unless I'm like ranting. But there was some systems with it that just, God, I was in disbelief when I learned more. It wasn't even like, oh, it's a glitch. Oh, it's whatever. It's just like, no, they made it poorly
programmed or poorly designed.
They designed it this specific way, and I was literally aghast.
That's the worst thing I keep hearing is that like it's not even like it performs poorly, but it's worse than that. It's literally just like the game that they intended to design is just also not good. It's just boring.
It's so I'll just say this: the stuff I'd talk about so far. So far, it's basically aspects that are very anti-player, anti-consumer, anti-co-op. So I don't know why they designed it that way. Anyway, let's get right into the movies. So first off, we're going to start with John Wick Chapter 4, and it'll just be me talking about it and James reacting to it.
Yeah, I kind of didn't do my homework.
You're so behind on movies.
It's been so hard to like find time to do anything, and it's just like I'm so behind on my chores too. And
we used to do this before. Like we haven't done it in so long because we've been focused on like specific movies and games and shows that we've both seen. But older episodes, if you guys are only recently starting to listen, were a lot of just like I played or watched this specific thing, and James watched or played this specific thing.
Yeah,
this is like the first time in a while that's been like this. But
and so like I told you earlier, like I'll probably still watch this movie maybe next week if I have time around like Guardians 3 and stuff like that. It's just like the point of these movies for me is like the action and the stunts and stuff. So like I don't personally care too much about having the plot spoiled because it'll still be a fun movie to watch. Unless you tell me wrong or tell me different right now.
Yeah, no. You'll find out everything now.
Yeah.
But we both watched Evil Dead Rise, so we'll both talk. We were in the theater for that. Was it just? Oh yeah, it was just us. We'll talk more about it when we get to it. So John Wick Chapter 4. I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was so freaking fun. It was like the minute I watched it, I'm like, okay, this is the best movie this year so far, easily.
Really?
It was, and then I watched Suzumi, and then I was like,
I was about to say, like, I thought you said that about Suzumi.
Yeah, I watched Suzumi after it came out after, but they're completely different, obviously. And people will probably be like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Why are you saying this little anime movie's better than John Wick?" I'm like, they're just different, and I just appreciated one in a different aspect. But John Wick Chapter 4, it does everything we've seen before in terms of like action and choreography, and not in a bad way. I've enjoyed it thoroughly, and I enjoy the overall story that you're getting from this, even though like you said, James, the main focus why this movie is this franchise is so like popular is surely the freaking choreography of the fights, and just like Keanu Reeves being like, yeah,
I think I need a gun.
Yeah, help me out with that. And you're just like, okay, yeah, and then everyone else is just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? He attacked John Wick, Baba Yaga. Oh fuck. Like usually it's always those types of reactions, but I think we've kind of left the Baba Yaga portion of John Wick at this point, because that was really like the first two movies, and since then he's just been hunted. So it's not like everyone's fearing John Wick, which, they are at the same time. Like, I feel like they're always still afraid of like the threat of John Wick.
Especially... Yeah, that's the funniest thing about it. Like the series to me is like literally everyone in the assassin world seems to know who the fuck John Wick is.
Working again, John? Yeah. And yeah, I am. The whole thing with this, of course, is it's like a continue. Like, I would say, like, look at Part 1 is standalone, very much so. Part 2 is like the catalyst of this trilogy, really. I would say 2 through 4 is a trilogy in and of itself, where 2 is like, oh, hey, start this thing, and then the consequences of what happens at the end. He kills that dude who ends up being on the high table. Leads into him being chased for legitimately like 2 movies. And it's a lot of just John Wick running around trying to find answers and still being chased at the same time until he's able to solve everything that's going on and, fix everything for himself. Because this, like the last movie, it's very individualistic. Like it's just him kind of doing his thing at the same time. Like, what are their faces? Winston and Sharon, what's his face? Ian McShane and Lance Reddick's characters were in trouble in the third movie, and they find safety at the end by betraying John in the third movie. So this one's like, oh, hey, John, you gotta figure this out again, but now it's just you and the Bowery King, played by Lawrence Fishburne for the most part. And you think like, oh, okay, so everyone else is safe, right? No, that is Not true. They bring in a new sub faction within like that world, and it's like the Harbinger, played by freaking Clancy Brown. So Mr. Krabs is like,
oh my god, really?
Sponge Boy Bob, catch me, John Wick. Yeah. So
holy shit, that was good.
He's really fun. He's just like this dude that shows up and he's just like, you need to be judged to like Winston and stuff, like because of the Continental that he's in charge of. And they go to pay like I guess a visit to the new antagonist of this film, who is Marquis, played by Bill Skarsgård, aka Pennywise from like It Chapter 1 and 2, like the new shit and everything
so
else.
Weird.
Yeah. So he's like this dude who's trying to get onto the high table. And right now he's doing stuff for them and he's like, "Oh, well, I pretty much I forget what they were called because it's like he was in charge of let me see what the names were of these guys. Oh, it doesn't show it. But he's in charge of these like special ops dudes that work at the Continental. And they're like special suits and everything. Later on you see an armored version of them too, which is fucking insane. But he does like this whole I'm judging your Continental. You've been judged poorly. We're gonna blow it up. So they blow up the Continental. And
oh my god, what?
yeah, and then he shoots and kills Sharon. So he kills Lance Reddick's character.
Damn.
Because he basically takes responsibility so Winston doesn't die, and in turn basically gets killed. And he's like, there you go, your concierge is dead. Like, this is what you get. And it's, it's hard to watch because right before this, Lance Reddick passed away. So we're just watching him die on screen. We were like, fuck. And, it's like when Carrie Fisher passed away, and then you're like, oh, they killed Leia, and then she flies in space.
Yeah,
you're
like, just like, what?
Oh, they should have actually just killed Leia. Never mind. Fuck.
You had a perfect out, and you decided no, we could do better.
Oh my god! But it's like that whole you get into that point of like, should you kill off the character, that kind of thing. We've seen what happened with Chadwick Boseman, and I guess in back then everyone was like, don't recast, and now that we've gone post Black Panther 2, everyone's like, maybe we should have recast or done Killmonger, which I've said because it was, the second movie was fine. The other one being there was one other example I wanted to quickly say, but it just like left my
in Marvel or
no, just in these movies recently of just like people passing away and then they kind of just like, working around it and whatnot. There was a fourth
Dumbledore?
one. No, it wasn't Dumbledore. No, he's just freaking.
It was like 2 movies,
but
that was like a while ago.
Yeah, no. They wanted fucking. Originally they wanted Ian McKellen to do it.
Damn.
I forget what he said. I forget what you said. No. Anywho, I think it was because the original actor for Dumbledore or something hated him or something like that. So he was like, I'd feel bad to take his role or something.
I didn't think about it that way. Huh.
But yeah, so it's like this whole like, oh man, R.I.P. Lance Reddick, and then we've watched him. Oh, Paul Walker, that was the other one. Where they didn't kill off Paul Walker, and they've been kind of doing like they used his brother at one point for a little bit, and then they've
some like really interesting like computer effects to try to.
Or they just have his car show up at the end of like 9. And then I think they said they're gonna figure something out for him for like 10 and possibly now this new trilogy, so it's going up to 12.
Oh yeah, I love that. Like the 10 might be like a trilogy, and that's why the tagline is like the beginning of the end.
Yeah. So back to John Wick, like they go through this whole thing of we have to now watch all the Continentals because if they're kind of acting in their own, they have to be cold or put down, and a lot of people aren't necessarily looking at that like he's like, if I do this and I do this correctly, I'll get rewarded. Whereas other people in the organization are like, no, I don't like this. Like, you're going a little too far there, including the Harbinger is also like, oh, I don't know about all this. So John ends up going to like Japan, and he goes to the Continental there, and you learn who the this is great, who the head of the Continental is Hiroyuki Sanada. He plays Shimazu there, you would actually know him. If I recall, he is Scorpion in the Mortal Kombat movie. He's Musashi in Westworld.
That was the guy that I was thinking, like, oh man, who would be the head of the Continental in Japan? Maybe that actor. Like,
the samurai in
if I can choose
Westworld.
right.
He is the elder in Did you watch Bullet Train yet?
I did. Dude, you were right. That movie was great.
It wasn't in my okay, so the elder in that's him also.
Yeah.
So he is basically the dude in charge there. And you get so
I would
excited.
love if that was like in the same universe.
And he has his concierge is actually his daughter, who's played by Rina Sawayama. Her character's name is Akira. And the whole thing of that is John goes and meets him upstairs at the roof. And he goes upstairs to the roof where John is, and he's like, "Hey man, we're gonna get fucked up for covering for you." Because John still has a bunch of friends.
Right.
And they actually send all the guys, they pretty much send the special ops dudes after them there. And the cool thing about it is, this is a Japanese Continental. So it's very much like, they take all the different cultural backgrounds of it and throw it all at once. So you have sumo wrestlers, you have archers, you have guys with like katanas and axes.
I literally thought you were just gonna say like the building itself is like themed, like
that too.
Japan
it's
theme,
very much like it's so feudal. It's
the different types of assassins is such a cool idea.
Yeah. So you have all these big like all these different variations of like Japanese culture throughout like history a little bit, just all at once, because it's like they don't even really, because the whole thing in the rule, there's no guns in the Continental. And so they're like, yeah, so
sumo wrestlers don't need a gun.
Fucking bows and shit. And you're like,
ugh. Oh wait, that like doesn't count.
Well, it's when they need it. I think some of them still used gun. I don't think no, I think they all still used like bows and stuff, but like
that's funny.
They don't fight John. So they introduce two other characters. So it's like kind of like the guys that are not necessarily equals to John. One is pretty much like an equal. The other is a rookie, up and coming rookie. The other antagonist is Kane, played by Donnie Yen. So he's like a blind retired assassin who gets forced back into it because he's just like, yo, I want to go meet my daughter. She plays violin over here publicly and stuff.
Also, that dude's like great at martial arts.
Yeah, so they're like, you have to do this for us or else we're gonna kill your daughter. And if you do this, we'll let you see her and all this stuff. So he's like, fine, I'll kill John. Even though like the whole thing is like they're like really good friends. Like on the level like in the first movie where you find out Willem Dafoe is like his friend and stuff. It's like that. And so he has to go against him. And not only that, where is he? Tracker is literally his name, but he's played by Shamir Anderson. So he's this dude with a German Shepherd, I want to say. No, I think it was a German Shepherd. I can't remember, but he seems like this weird looking guy. Everyone's well dressed, and he's getting more like in pretty much like streetwear. And he shows up, and they're like, "What the hell are you doing here?" And his goal is to kill John Wick, but he has a very interesting sub goal. He doesn't want John Wick at his current bounty. He wants John Wick at a higher bounty. So when the guys following John show up, led by Kane, they like fight, and the Continental actually protects him. And through that, they're all getting pretty much like they're fighting, and a lot of are dying on both sides, but the Japanese are pretty much getting massacred at the same time too. And at a certain point, like this dude saves John. And he's like, I'll be back later. I need you with the higher bounty. So you need to survive this. And then I'll come after you once that's done. Because he's also like kind of he tries to leverage the marquee to get a better deal, like an exclusive deal of like, hey, if you pay me this much specifically, not anyone else, just me, I will take out John Wick and all this other shit. So like that's his whole goal, is like getting the best deal. And I think it's like a one and done job. His goal is to do this, get filthy rich, and then retire and finish up. He's like, basically, I'm done. Like John Wick is my golden ticket to not having to do this shit. So he's hunting John. You have all this shit going on. Akira is such a cool character. I want to see more of her. It's like when you saw Ana de Armas as Paloma in James
Yeah.
Bond, and you're like, I'd take a Paloma movie. Akira was cool enough where she, in this whole fight, she just shows up with a bow and is like taking dudes out that have like full on like assault rifles with a bow. And they're like, the cool thing is these armored dudes are like practically bulletproof. So they have to like stab them in between the neck and all this other stuff. So it's like taking a lot to take these guys out. But you get to like a point where Shimazu and Kane fight and Shimazu loses, like Kane kills him and he lets Akira live, and Akira's like, you know, I'll hunt you down uh if it's the last thing I do. Uh and like she ends up getting away and is with like John for a little bit and then like bounces, but she's like, if you don't kill him, I will. Like, you bet I don't care if he's your friend. He killed my father, like I'm gonna fucking kill him. So they go through all this stuff and there's some other stuff that happens before, but nothing too important. The whole thing about it though is John is now trying to get into a duel with the Marquis. And in order to do so, it's like, oh, here's the main quest. In order to do main quest, you must do side quest. In order to do side quest, you must do other side quest type thing. So they get into his family again. You know how like in the last movie he loses his association with like the Belarusian family that like he was with the whole time. I forget what they're called, like the Roma or something. But like they're supposed to be Belarusian. I think it's Belarusian is how you say it. And you get a whole like, you want to come back to us because if you get to us, you can issue a duel or something to like get the Marquis to stop everything, but also take out the Marquis at the same time potentially. And you learn like the head of his family was killed because of like being associated with John. So his family hates him, and now his cousin's in charge, and she's just like, all right, if you show up to the guy that like the guy that did the kill and you take him out, then we will bring you back into the family. And the let me find it real fast. What's his name? I think, yeah, Scott, you know Scott Adkins?
It sounds familiar.
He's like he's usually in a lot of fighting stuff. He's like all looking like a fight. I don't know how to describe him. He was in Ip Man 4 as like I think one of the Marines, but I don't know if you ever saw Ip Man. Did you ever see Ip Man 4?
Nah.
Okay. Well, he's basically in a lot of like kind of actiony, not like big time movies.
Yeah, I think I've seen this guy before.
But he dresses up as like a, oh wait, no, that's not him. I think, which one was he? He was, okay, I'm thinking of someone else. He basically is like the main of the like special ops dudes. He's like the one in charge. I'm trying to find what is where the hell is he? There was one big character that was fucking hilarious because of who it was. Let's see. Oh yeah, I totally forgot. You know who plays his cousin though?
Who?
Freaking Tonks from Harry Potter, or Asha from Game of Thrones.
Oh, huh.
Yeah, yeah, it was pretty crazy. Maybe you just got Atkins did play him. So there's one character, I can't find the actor who played him. I can't. I don't know what the hell happened, but he has so much makeup and stuff on that it doesn't even like look. It's like Penguin. It's not as good as Penguin in the Batman, but it's like similar. Of just like he's like ridiculously big and stuff. And it's like stupid big thug guy that looks like he ate too much spaghetti, but he has potential kingpin muscle. He like shows up and John goes to this dude, and it's funny because he's not the only one there. Kane gets there, and so does the tracker, the dude I told you about that's like trying to take out John for the bounty. And all three of them are there, and this dude's like, well, who is you guys are here to kill John. John's here to make a deal so he can, get through and kill the other guy, Marquis. And he's just like, but really John's there to kill him. And he's like, if I just killed all three of you, I take you all off the table, I get everything. And they're all like, I guess we're teaming up now. And so they start killing everybody. And there's this insane fight between this dude and John. That John wins this, but he gets like his ass kicked to hell because this dude's so fucking thick. It's like insane how crazy the fight is for it. But eventually, like, because he does that, he gets let back in. And then the duel is supposed to be this thing that happens. And this is where it's cool. It's like the influence from this portion, this like whole lasting portion of this film is influenced by the Warriors. Have you seen the Warriors?
No.
I hate you. Okay, so
I know it's one of those things people say I should watch because it's like one of those movies everyone should watch or whatever.
It's so fucking good, and it's a great group cosplay idea as well. But The Warriors is like a New York gang movie where they're the gang called the Warriors. They're from Coney Island, and all these gangs go to like this one place in New York because there's one guy who's going to be like the king of the gangs, and his name's like Cyrus or something, I forget. And he gets assassinated, and they get blamed. So the whole movie is them trying to get back to their Coney Island territory, and they have to go through the entirety of New York. Well, all the other gangs are trying to hunt him down for killing that leader, and they didn't do it. So not only are they being chased, but eventually at the end, like they get confronted by the actual gang that did the assassination, and they have to like fight them and claim their innocence basically in the matter with it. So throughout it all as well, there's a woman who runs who's on a radio station who's basically giving the position of where the Warriors are in the city so the gangs know where to find them. And the way she does it is like talking by code, putting on a specific song and all this stuff. And it's really insane. Like it's a really well done movie. So for John Wick, it's like, okay, here's the meeting place. You're going to meet at like the top of this iconic looking building. I forget what country it's even in, honestly. It's hard to remember. I'm sorry. Maybe it was DC or something. It was some crazy, I think it was in America. Or maybe it wasn't. I honestly don't remember, guys. I'm sorry. I saw this like in a very weird time where I was like in the middle of traveling, and it was after like a death in the family too. So it was like a whole fucking thing, and I'm like watching this like this is great. I'm dying. I'm just like being exhausted and traveling and everything. So he has to get to this duel, and the Marquis's like, I'm not going to duel you myself. I'm going to use a champion. I'm going to use Kane. So you'll have to duel Kane. When I say duel, I mean duel. Here's a fucking musket.
Oh, literally?
Pistol. Yeah. Here's a one-shot pistol. It's like, bleh. And then they do like the 1, 2, 3, turn, shoot, like that kind of thing. So it's not even like how, yeah, it's like that kind. So he has to get there, and the operators are like, all the woman with all the tattoos that work in like the information stuff for the company.
Yeah.
So they're all like revealing his location, and there's one that's always on the radio that's like, all right, we've got John Wick doing blah blah blah, and they're like, all these people, all these individual group of like people that work in this business are all hunting him. And then it shows them all arming up, all this crazy shit all over the place, and there are dudes that like are an auto body shop and all this. It's like so many different people are just like, all right, time to go kill John Wick in the fucking open of the city. And it's him just trying to get through all of it. And he's fighting, like shooting people, fighting them where there's like a bunch of traffic in the roads, by restaurants. At one point, it's like the area where I think maybe it was in France. It might have been in France at this point. I think, yeah, it was in France where the duel was. I'm remembering now because there's like an iconic road, I think, where the cars keep like circling this spot, and they're fighting.
That's where they did the duel?
No, that's where because he's fighting through to get to the duel the whole time. So he's trying to get there. And the cool thing about it too, right before I say it, is like he like goes underground before this all starts to kind of save himself, to not he hides there until he has to go to the duel. Once he has to go to the duel, then he goes above ground eventually, and he has to make his way there. But it's like his safe zone because he gets help from both Winston and the Bowery King. They're working together pretty much because Winston's like, we got to get revenge for this. And he it's funny because he's like, all right, well, I'll see you there. Goes over to the fucking duel without anyone trying to kill him. And John's like, well, time for me to do it. And he gets like a new Kevlar suit and everything, you know, like nice, clean suit, but it's also like fully bulletproof. And I love it because that's why he always has like he takes the suits, like the suit and like does this with it because it's bulletproof. So it's like basically like a Batman cape where he's just like, bup, 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 bup. And, he's fighting through all these different people, going through this entire thing. Meanwhile, also the Tracker's trying to kill him. So you have 3 factions trying to kill him. You have Tracker, an individual with a nice dog who keeps fucking ripping people apart, trying to kill him for the bounty. You have the Elite team that are also trying to kill him, so he never makes it to the duel. So it just ensures Marquis' victory. And you have, which you can see how fucked up Marquis is, just like all this stuff he's trying to do. And then you have the everyday, I guess, person in this line of business dude. They're not even like well dressed. They're just like thug looking dudes, all just going after John. And I love the road part because they keep getting hit by cars. They either dodge the cars or some of them get hit by the cars because, you know, the cars are going like full speed. So they're just like, they get up and they still try to shoot. And it's so funny watching all of that happening because imagine you're driving there and there's just, you're driving through a shootout and you're just hitting someone on your like, you hit someone and you're like, I don't know what's happening. Going. Bullets are going everywhere. I can't stop for this. Like I just gotta keep going. And because it's so weird. There's no one that's like it feels like civilians just disappear throughout this whole thing. And you're like, is this just a thing that this world has? Is this really like, I think it's like honestly, an alternate Earth where this is a known thing. Like when they're going after that big dude that John has to kill to get back into his family, there's a whole club there and people freak out for a second and then they go back to dancing. They're like, oh shit, he's shooting that guy. And you're just like,
I mean, that's kind of like, that was what was so interesting about like the first movie was like, you know, from the moment he unearths that like suitcase full of like not just like his guns and shit, but like the tokens and like there's this whole seems to be this like underground world set up for this like assassin community and stuff like that. But then the more the series goes on, you're like, how do normal people not just like notice all this shit all the time? Like there's literally assassins everywhere.
I mean, they literally, it's insane. Yeah, I don't understand how any of this works. Like it's a whole international thing, but you're just kind of like, fuck it, okay.
Nah.
I mean, I don't, at the same time, I don't care. Like it doesn't matter. Like if that's how it is in that world where it's just the regular thing, and then I'll be like, okay, dope. If it's not, and they're just somehow keep it underground, I'd be like, you know what, fuck it, who cares? If I saw that shit and I was walking by, I'd be like, it's not my business. I'm just gonna keep walking. I'm not even gonna get involved in this. I just get killed immediately. Not worth it. Is that Keanu Reeves? But like, you know what, actually it'd be hilarious if like John flies through like a restaurant window and there's just like a dude that's like the maitre d there that's just literally just the average restaurant maitre d. Oh hey John, you're working again? Like that would be fucking funny. Or like a
that's
bus
what
driver.
It feels like the
it really does.
Well, they introduced the Bowery King in like the third movie or whatever. So the third?
No, he was in the second movie, I think.
Oh yeah, and you're just like,
no, it was the third. It was no.
Well, whichever one it was, and you're just movie. Like, wait, right. Like, so are just all homeless people, or just like a bunch of homeless people, just hidden assassins / like intel people? Like, what?
I don't know.
Huh?
I still love that one homeless dude in the last movie. That's like, he like comes up to a dude and is like, "Hey, buddy, man," and just proceeds to stab him repeatedly.
Yeah,
that was fucking hilarious. I gotta stop swearing. So John goes through all this stuff. He's fighting all these guys. At one point, there's like a fight in a house. I think it's like an abandoned building. And there's a point where the dog is about to get killed by like the top elite guy. And John saves the dog. And Tracker's like, you saved my dog. I'm on your side now. So Tracker actually proceeds to help him for the rest of the way. Not like next to him, but like he's kind of like a sniper for John, which helps him out a bit. And it's nice because he wins Tracker over because Tracker's like, you know what? I like you. You're cool. You know, you didn't kill my dog and I'm not dead. So this is pretty good. And you get to then the most insane part of the movie, the stairs. There's a long flight of stairs in this park, and John has to go up the stairs. And you think, it's just stairs, right? No. This is like the craziest fight. So John has to fight all these dudes going up the stairs. It's everything from shooting, hand-to-hand combat, all this crazy stuff. The elite guy, the elite dude that's like in charge should have died like 3 times already, and he's not dead. He's just like, I'm gonna keep going. And John's fighting these people, and John will get up like some of the stairs. This dude will fight John, and John will win, but he'll fall down the stairs, fall all the way down the stairs. Then he has to try again, and it's a whole thing of just falling down these like stairs over and over. And I think he gets near the top is when the main fall happens, because he goes all the way down to the bottom.
Damn.
And it's a long flight. But eventually, when he gets to the bottom again, I believe is when Kane shows up and is like, yo, this isn't honorable. I'm going to help you get to the duel. Even though we're going to be the ones dueling, I'm going to help make sure you get there. So they team up, go through, fight together, and win. Eventually, that dude finally gets killed, the head guy, and they get to the duel. And by the end of it, like, him and Kane are basically shooting each other with these pistols. And John lets Kane win. It's very smart. So John's like bleeding out, and when they did the fight, John didn't like I think this is like the 3rd or 4th. I forget how. So they'll shoot each other, they'll hit each other. They're like now bleeding from these musket shots, and they basically will take a step or a few steps closer and then do it again. And they do it like 3 or 4 times, if I recall. And the last one, Kane shoots John. John doesn't even shoot, and he gets hit. Like, he tries to. It shows that he tries to shoot, but he doesn't get hit. I mean, he doesn't shoot, and so now he's like on the ground, and Marquis is like, "All right, you could stop. I'll take it from here. I want the killing shot on him." So he goes to do it, and they go like, "John never fired," and John just looks at him and he goes, "Hey, Marquis!" Bam! It just blasts him with that shot he didn't take.
Damn.
So that was the loophole. So Kane and John didn't want to kill each other. So they tricked him and had Kane nearly kill John. Then John kills Marquis, gets him out of the way. So Kane's like, cool, I'm free. See you later, guys. And John's like, cool, I'm also free and forgiven. See you later, guys. But I'm dead because I'm also bleeding out to death. So now I'm dead. So he like kicks the bucket. And you're like, oh,
damn,
crash. But he's not dead. Like, it's implied he dies. They go to his grave, and it's like it ends with like Winston. The whole time Mr. Krabs is there, he's just like, it was a fine duel, everything's done, it's forgiven. Winston, you get the bet was also Winston gets his Continental rebuilt, so he gets the Continental back. He gets full like jurisdiction on it again, and he's like, and Marquis taken care of, because also he would have been a thorn in their side too. So everything goes well, and he's like, all right, everything's done, and he like scrambles away and shit. So, you see like Winston and the Barry King at the end at John's grave, and it's implied like John's like overlooking them, watching them at his grave and stuff. And it ends with that for John. And then for Kane, it shows him like with flowers, I'm going to go finally see my daughter. But who is behind Kane? Akira, ready to avenge her father. And he doesn't know she's there. So it's a very well done movie. So I was basically had to summarize it so you understood it. They do a really great job of, you don't want these characters to die. And we've seen like, each movie has a antagonist that is one you're not necessarily rooting for against John, but you root for them because you think they're also like, you kind of love these guys versus like the ones you want dead. And the first one, it's like Alfie Allen, the Theon Greyjoy, he's the son, and his dad, they're like, they got to die. But Willem Dafoe was at first going to be his enemy, and then it turns out, he's not, but he still dies. And you're like, damn. Second movie is Common, and he speaks Italian, which is fucking hilarious. But he doesn't die. He, like, John lets him live. Whereas like, you know, you have Ruby Rose's character, what was it, Ares gets killed, and along with like the main dude John goes after. And in 3, I forget who the main. I'm gonna be honest, I forget who the main villain was in 3. But you have the 2 guys from the raid go after him, and they don't die, and you appreciate that because you're like, oh, cool. You know, they see like the big names that these guys are and the enjoyment of them, and the same thing with Donnie Yen as Kane is all these like characters that you don't necessarily want to die because as cool as John Wick is, now they've introduced these other characters from very big movies that you know them from. It's like Expendables, but it's like, oh, hey, it's the guys from the raid. John Wick and the raid go hand in hand together practically. So it would be sad if you watch the guys from the raid get killed. Same with Ip Man being killed too. You're just like, I want to see Ip Man survive. So there is enjoyment in just having like not full lists of like hated characters. Instead, like there's antagonists that you can at least enjoy and root for them to live at the same time, while not wanting John Wick to lose as well. The choreography is pretty much on the level of the other movies. I think they did a great job. I am not sure where I would rank it. It's hard to say because I honestly don't even know how I would rank the other 3. Each one is so much fun, but I honestly think I'd have to watch all 4 of them back to back to like really compare of like which one do I like more. Because in terms of like climaxes, I think the first 2 had the best climaxes. I think 4 kind of had the most, how would I call it? Like the way it all goes through, you're thinking like there's gonna be something big, but it diffuses itself with the end. Like you're like, oh, okay, that's fine. It's not a big deal, but it wasn't as like insane as I thought it would be, if that makes sense. So it definitely doesn't have like the biggest bang compared to like the first 2 at least, and the third one was like, it was well done, but not also didn't have the biggest bang either, if I recall. So like I said, I'm not sure where to rank it, but it is for sure so far. And we are 5 months into we're about 4.5 months into the year so far. It is my number 2 movie of the year at this point in time. And if you haven't seen it in theaters, I would highly advise you to see it in theaters. This is definitely a theatrical experience that is worth seeing. Like you're doing it disrespect if you don't see it in theaters. Like you could see it at home, but this is definitely something like I would say over most other movies that have been out so far that you definitely want to see on a big screen for sure. The other thing about it was I think they didn't do anything special for Lance Reddick that would have been like out of pocket. They went with the movie as normal. Because especially it was made way before he was going to pass away. Like, I was shocked that they were able to, in time, get at the end, in memory of Lance Reddick and stuff. Because they were able to at least put that in. Because it happened, like, right before the movie even released.
Yeah, I mean, they were doing, like, the press tour, like, like, it was happening when he died, basically. Which is, like, right before the movie came out.
And, they're not sure of if they want to do a John Wick 5. That's the whole thing of like John kind of faking his death makes it so he can kind of live a life potentially of what he could. We don't really know what he'd even want to do because there's not really anything for him at this point. Like you don't really see anything happen with him. The whole thing was, hey, your wife's dead. Here's a dog. They killed his dog. Now he's out for revenge. Cool, I'm done. Oh wait, no, I'm back in again. And then from there, it's just like ongoing stuff. Like what he was going to do in between 1 and 2 would be the only thing that I could think of, but it wasn't really even like anything. It was just like, I'm going to go home and just feed this dog. That was about it.
I mean, he literally wanted to be retired and just people kept coming back and like fucking with him.
Yeah. So for 5, if I recall correctly hearing this, apparently Chad Stiletzky, him and Keanu Reeves are going to go to Japan and hash out a John Wick 5 script or something like that, or like what it could potentially be. And depending on how they feel about it would determine whether or not they'd even want to move forward with a 5th movie or not. So it could be the end. It just depends on how they feel, because they're pretty much saying they're done, but they could do more. But first, they want to see, well, what could it be? Would it be worth doing more or not? In the meantime, they're doing spinoffs now. We have the Continental show coming soon, which is supposed to be like a 3-parter, and there's a trailer out for it. I haven't had a chance to see it yet, but apparently there's a trailer out, and it has like a young Winston, which will be cool. And then the other thing being what I'm really excited about is the ballerina movie, and that I think comes out next year. That is the one that James, you in John Wick 3, do you remember the female assassins that they showed? They're like doing ballet and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so this is about that, and it's about one of them getting like vengeance and stuff, and it takes place apparently between 3 and 4. And this one is starring Anna de Armas as the assassin, and apparently John Wick will be in it, Winston will be in it. I think even Lance Reddick's in it too. So this might be his last film that he got to be in when that comes out next year, which is really nice that they were able to get him in there too. So it'll be interesting seeing these 2 spinoffs. I think I have faith that these will both be pretty good. In regards to, like, other things in their spinoffs haven't necessarily been good. Like, just one example, I think The Witcher. I heard their like Blood Origin show didn't do well. We haven't watched it yet, but there's plenty of things that could go great with it and keep the universe moving. Otherwise, Keanu Reeves, I believe, is going to do either a show or movie on Berserker, which was his comic book that he came out with. It was like a 12-issue comic book where he's like this immortal guy that can't die and keeps killing people. And I know he wanted to make that into like a movie or a show, so that's going to be happening. I think when you look at that comic book, it's basically just it's the screenplay of with pictures of his movie that he wanted to make or show. Meanwhile, since he's done with John Wick, Chad Stahelski is going to move on to the Ghost of Tsushima movie, which will be really cool. That's the director for it, and I'm so pumped to see what he's going to do with that choreography, because I feel like John Wick 4 kind of gives you a taste with all the archery and katana play, like all the sword play there and that kind of thing. Like, you could see he's now like getting started with it, and I feel like that could be a reason why he chose Japan for part of the movie. Like, and him and Keanu Reeves meeting in Japan, where he's going to be basically probably filming Ghost of Tsushima as well. Like, there's so much to do for that kind of thing. So I'm really pumped to see how everything goes for that kind of, like, all that stuff. I'm sure we'll get it in a few years or a couple years eventually. I would say, I feel like Ghost of Tsushima would come out like 2026, 2025 at the soonest.
Yeah, I forgot that they were even like doing a Ghost of Tsushima movie.
Yeah, that's how I got excited for it, because he would be the one in charge of it, and I was like, oh, he's gonna do it. Okay, then I am so down for that. Yeah, he's I don't know if that's his next movie, because he's got a lot of stuff in production right now. Like that Vice City, he's doing a Rainbow Six project too, Highlander, Gangsters of Shanghai, Black Samurai, Sandman Slim, Kill or Be Killed. But it's that whole thing of, are they actually being worked on, or are they in like a permanent shelf somewhere where it just kind of got done? Like, I mean, like Robert Rodriguez and with Machete Kills Again in Space. I'm still waiting for that. I want my third Machete movie, damn it. So it's that kind of thing of like, which of those are actually going to be in the way of Ghost of Tsushima, or if that's the next thing on his plate. But I feel like it is the next thing on his plate. But that's pretty much John Wick 4. I thought it was a really good time. I thought, audio cinematography was superb, amazing theatrically, had a fun story. It's not super deep at all. It never is, but it's just so much fun watching this action. I doubt anything will be better than it in terms of action and choreography at all. Like, I think the only things that'll be like big boom bang, all that stuff is just what Beast Wars and Fast X, but Fast X is like a different creature, where that's more of cars and stuff. So, and Vin Diesel probably like beating up like an army with his bare hands, like, I'm Vin Diesel, power my family, which is fantastic. I don't know if you know that in Fast 9, he literally took chains and brought down this whole floor, and everyone there. So he stopped everyone there, and they all like fell to their deaths. It was insane. God, that was so good. But yeah, that was John Wick Part 4. Evil Dead Rise. So we saw that in the theater, dude, and it was an empty ass theater. Some people showed up like right when the movie was about to start. At first, we were like, "Oh shit, we're in an empty theater. This will be fun."
Yeah, I keep hoping that like one day I'll get to see a movie where it's like I'm the only person in the theater, and twice recently that's been like close to true, and then like people show up.
If you're the only one in the theater, that means you get to run up and down the stairs watching the movie and like go crazy.
Or at least
and
you
then
like
the
don't have
person
to
in the
bother with
projector
like
room watches
whispering
them
or
like,
whatever.
"What the fuck are you doing?" Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess before we really start off with the movie, it was a cool, I guess, reveal that Army of Darkness plays into canon of all of the movies connecting them all. And I didn't like it. It's such an awesome reveal that they did that. So the whole thing is like in Army of Darkness, which is like the third Evil Dead movie of the originals with Bruce Campbell and everything else, when he's in like the medieval times, he comes up and finds not one but three Necronomicons, and he's like, "Oh crap!"
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, what's going to happen?" And doesn't he accidentally send them all away?
I don't remember if they ever explicitly said what happened to those other two books in that movie. It was just like he was told by the wizard or whatever, like someone in the medieval times was like, okay, if you want to get back to your own time and end all this deadite bullshit, you have to take this book that you brought with you, take it to this special place, put it on the pedestal, speak these three magic words, and then that'll like seal the book, essentially. And so he goes there and he finds the pedestal, and there's like two other pedestals with two other books on them, and then he like puts the book down and fucks up because he forgets what the third word is, and that ends up like basically fucking worse up and unleashing the army of the dead.
Yeah.
So I don't remember if they ever said like what happened in those books. It was just like he left and tried to be like, oh well, I think I did it right, and the books were just like left there. So it's interesting that like they brought back those books for like the other two movies.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, that main book that he brings back, that's the one he deals with in Evil Dead 1, 2, Army of Darkness, Ash versus Evil Dead. So all of that is that singular book, and you find out the roles of the other two. The second book is actually the book that is in Evil Dead, the 2013 reboot. And then the third book turns out to be the one that is in Evil Dead Rise.
Yeah, which is super cool because I thought the 2013 one was just like
a straight reboot. Yeah, but they're like, all in the same world.
Super awesome. Cool.
Yeah, it's insane, and you see them basically each get solved. But I don't think the books are, they can't destroy the books.
Yeah, so it's like I like that idea of just like there is no way to permanently fix this like issue. It's just these evil books will never be like destroyed, can never be destroyed. I mean, maybe with like some random magic you could figure it out, but like it's just by conventional means you can't like tear up the book, you can't set it on fire, and occasionally it will just cause mayhem to happen.
Almost makes you want to see like the origin of these books, practically. Yeah. Which would be, I don't even know when it would be. It's like pre-Army of Darkness, I guess.
They talk about that in I think they talk about that a little bit in the Evil Dead series, because there's like a demon in there that's like, I'm the one that like made these books, I think.
I don't remember the series as much anymore. It's been forever.
It's been a while, yeah, so I don't remember entirely.
Plus, like each season was a completely different plot, practically, of like, oh, we're on the road and Lucy Lawless is there, and the other one's like, we're in a school and you have a daughter, and it's like, oh shit. So, they kind of go all over the place with it. But I think this movie holds up with the others. I think it was a great time.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it's the best one, but it definitely holds its own and is easily highly recommended for sure.
Oh yeah. I mean, the last two movies, I was just so worried that they were just, the studios were taking like a known property and just making another movie out of it, which, I mean, sometimes that can turn out good, but most of the time it feels like a cheap like money grab, and there's no soul to it. It's just like, well, we did it to make money, so enjoy product or don't. And thankfully for both the 2013 reboot and this one, it feels like they actually give a shit about making like a good horror movie. And like the 2013 one, it maybe went a little bit too far into the gory stuff, because there were honestly some moments where it was just like straight up disgusting. But this most recent one, Rise, like it had some like gross gory shit in it, but it wasn't like too gratuitous, so it was just like there were shocking moments, but it wasn't like too much to the point where I was like, okay, I don't know if I want to keep watching.
Yeah.
Like even with like the movie starting with that girl basically having her hair, like her whole scalp just like ripped off in like one go.
Yeah, dude, the IMDb is 15 people because of how little characters there were in this movie. It's insane. It's funny because I always forget how little people are actually in the Evil Dead movies. Like the only ones that have a lot of people is Army of Darkness and Ash versus Evil Dead. Those are the only two. Everything else is like, always like a very small group.
Because all the other movies are generally like a cabin in the woods type horror movie where it's like an isolated location with a few people and there's like some reason why they can't leave or whatever. And I thought it was clever that they sort of had that set up for this movie, but it was in like an apartment building in the city.
Yeah.
So you would think like, well, why don't they just go get help? And like they do a pretty good job of explaining why they can't just like shout out into the streets and like ask for help or whatever. Like the elevator's busted and like the stairs are literally destroyed because of like an earthquake or whatever. And there's a time where someone tries to scream for help outside the window, and it's raining so hard that like the guy down in the street like literally just cannot hear them.
Yeah.
So it's just like they did a good job of like, even though it's not physically as remote of a location, they still had like reasons for why the main character, like all the people involved, were like cut off from help.
Yeah. And the fact too that this all happens on a single floor and then also the garage. Yeah. Like there's other floors in this building and none of them are affected by this. They're just kind of like, what the fuck is that? Like,
yeah, which is why it's really funny at the end of the movie when like just some random other person goes to get her car and notices like blood all over the garage. They're just like, what the fuck happened?
God. I think so. This whole thing, they start off with they throw me off because you see the beginning has stuff from the trailer. In the trailer, you see like someone floating over the water, and you're like, what the hell is that? Like, oh, I thought this is in a building. What's going on here? And they do a cabin in the woods at the very beginning for a brief second, and it's a very, very small cabin because it's like 3 people. But they reveal like, hey, this girl is possessed by the book, and now she's gonna kill her friend and her boyfriend, and she fucking kills the shit out of her boyfriend. His head just pops out of the water. You're like, oh, yeah. But he or like you see that and you're like, oh, okay, and then it goes a few days earlier, and you're just like,
what?
What's this gonna mean? And that whole thing of like, yeah, she comes down at the end of the movie, and that's like, oh, that's how that got there.
Yeah, I feel like completely forgotten about the beginning of the movie by then. I was just like, oh yeah.
It's funny because you're like, oh, so that's just kind of how that ends, and you assume, I guess, that she survived, or she basically probably killed her friend.
Yeah,
who knows? But the whole movie is like about motherhood.
It is family.
Yes, family. But it's interesting because we don't get this setting. Everything is always a group of friends going to the cabin or a group of people trying to stop everything going on. Never, here's a family, and most of the characters are just kids for the most part. And there's the sister who's played by, I believe, Lily Sullivan, plays Beth, and she shows up and is like, hey, I'm pregnant. Oh, God. And her sister, Ellie, is played by Alyssa Sutherland, which I feel like she's in some other stuff. Oh, she's in That's why she's in The Mist. Wait, no, that's the newer Mist version. Never mind. She's in she was in something. Oh, she's in Vikings. She's like the queen in Vikings. Interesting. Okay. But she's like the first one to get possessed, and you know she gets possessed. Like they show her so much in the trailers and like the posters. I think even some of the posters say like "Mommy's Home" or some shit. I forget. And actually, this isn't too bad of a time because this comes out like what, a month before Mother's Day, really, or like right before Mother's Day. Also, you're muted.
Oh, I didn't realize it was muted. I don't know why.
That's weird. But yeah, it's because right now we're recording on Mother's Day. And yeah, it's just funny that that came out so close to it. I think if they put that out like the Friday before Mother's Day, that would have been hilarious. Just like Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah.
It's be so good. The I guess the first thing I want to talk about in terms of like everything that happens in the movie of like the possessions and everything else was they do a fantastic job with the makeup. They do such a good job of making the mom look so twisted, like over time getting possessed and all the stuff that happens to her. And the whole thing with the Deadites is their eyes turn like yellow. And for the mom, she turns like super pale and it's like freaky looking because I think she's the only one that really is like more pale than everyone else because she's been dead longer, so she's already starting to lose like the warmth of her body and whatnot. And then once she restarts again, you're just like, oh Jesus Christ, okay. But the makeup is really well done. She looks antagonizing or horrifying, I guess you would say, because the way they pull off the cinematography in this, I would say is really well done. Like the other movies, I think they do a great job of what they're trying to do. But this one, I think, had the best camera movement for the sake of horror, for the sake of scaring someone. When I say that, there's a scene where the mother, when she first comes back, she's in the bathtub and she comes out of it and she's like on the what is it, like the ceiling of the bathtub for a second.
Yeah.
She's like doing the scream, but once like that it's like I think that's like the whole possession and shit going on. But once it's done, and she becomes it's fully like that creature. I mean the Deadeye, like her hands come up out of the bathtub and she like rises and you're like, oh geez. But the true part, the absolute freakiest part probably in the movie was they back away from the bathroom and they just see her kind of head peering out of the door.
Yeah, that was super creepy.
That was the best part in terms of just horror, just pure horror, because it was so unsettling the way they had that. You don't need like the jump scare. You don't need like the creepy thing in the corner, which I will say they do the creepy thing in the corner, and we'll talk about that soon enough.
Yeah.
But this was just chef's kiss horror. Very good.
I think that's one of the reasons why the Deadites are such a like. I mean, granted, for some of the movies in this series, they're like kind of goofy as well as like creepy, or more goofy than creepy. But like for the movies in this series that are trying to actually do like legitimate horror, it's creepy that these things, they're not just trying to kill you. They seem to enjoy terrorizing people.
Yeah.
And so it's just like this thing could just like murder this entire family in like 2 minutes or whatever. But it's like toying with them and making them think that like, well, maybe mom is still in there or whatever. And like, well, maybe she'll be fine. Like maybe we were wrong that she was dead or whatever. And it's just like, no. This thing is just fucking with you and just like trying to lure you into a false sense of security so it could get you when you least expect it.
And the whole thing with it too is just the Necronomicon and all this stuff that goes with it. It was Necronomicon, right? Yeah, it was
for the first movie at least,
because I couldn't remember. I was like Neonomicon. Which one's Neonomicon? That's an Alan Moore thing, I think. But it's I think that was like a Cthulhu thing. But the whole idea of this like this pure force of evil, and I truly mean evil because it's not like, oh, I'm gonna kill you. It's I'm going to toy with you. I'm gonna do so much cruelty to you before you die And then to add insult to injury, I'm going to use your dead against you. I'm going to use their emotions against you, your emotions against you. And also I'm going to twist them, deform them, and basically make them something that you don't recognize anymore, even though they're someone that you potentially loved. Like, that is pure fucking evil. Like, there's nothing worse than that. That's like insanely good. Like, that's such a cool idea that Sam Raimi came up with this when he made Evil Dead. Like,
it makes it the title like perfect. Like, they are truly the Evil Dead.
Yeah. Like, I would love it. It's like what was it, Dark Knight Rises, Ben Mendelsohn, when Bane's like about to kill him, you're pure evil. It's like, do you feel like you have power, like you're in charge? Well, you're going to die and we're gonna read from the book, and then the dead will come to life. Yeah, I know I went Harley Quinn at the end there for the Bane, because he does like the high pitch Bane. Just, God bless you, Harley Quinn.
I love that show.
I love that show so much. We'll do it once the movies are once we're done catching up on movies for Cut of Steel. That's the first thing we're doing for sure, is the Harley Quinn series. So you have all this awesome horror, which I don't want to talk about it all at once yet, but I think I want to talk about the possession first, because in previous Evil Dead movies, we've had just, usually they always read from the book, if I'm correct. They always read from the book, and there'll always be someone that's outside when it's being read, or they'll read the book outside, but the evil happens, and you have its perspective, and it's like a force in the air. You never see what it is, and it's like,
it's so like iconic to the series of just like the first person camera like zooming through the forest in like weird ways.
Yeah. And I think it's the cool thing about it, I think, is when the person that's about to get hit by it sees it, it's not that they see a creature, they just see they see that feeling of evil, because it's like there's movement, there's all this stuff. So you're visibly seeing something that doesn't look like it's supposed to be there, and it isn't, because it's like an evil wind that's coming at you.
Yeah.
And in the old movies, the girl that gets possessed first gets more or less raped by a tree, if I recall correctly.
Fucked up.
Yeah, that was super fucked up. In 2013 Evil Dead, wasn't it like a slugworm thing?
I don't remember.
Rapes
like,
her?
I remember it was like a similar scene to the original, which again led into like why I thought it was supposed to be like a reboot / reimagining or whatever. But I don't remember the specifics.
Okay. I'm pretty sure also, I mean, either way, she basically also gets raped by the evil force and possessed. And it's always in the woods. It's always, like I said, a tree or like a worm shit or something. I forget what it was in 2013. But I'm pretty sure in the old one it was a tree. And I don't want to get them mixed up. But for this one, they somehow still make it completely similar. And I was not expecting how they would do it, because it's like, oh, the tree and stuff, it grabs her and has the vines and stuff. And you're like, oh, okay, fine. This one is like, hey, we're in an urban landscape. We're in Los Angeles. We're in an old building, and she goes down for laundry, and she's coming, I think it was like laundry and stuff, but she's coming back up. She's in an old elevator. And what happens? The elevator like freaks out. The force like throws her into the air. The like cables and stuff from the elevator come out and like grab her. And
dude, the moment where like it bent her arm backwards and like snapped, I literally was like, oh
yeah, no, it's God,
it's uncomfortable.
There's horror, and then there's pain threshold of just seeing like a mutilation happen to somebody, and it's like, for me, I think I have a high threshold of like what's gonna be unsettling to me. So for this one, I was just like, oh shit, it's fine. It wasn't too bad. It's not
like for me,
what I hate is like when it's like, oh, a paper cut on the tongue, or like it's the more unnatural ones, like a nail coming off or something.
For me, it's like very specific things will get me more than others. Like anything to do with the eyes and then like limbs being bent backwards.
Oh,
like,
dude, I hate
those are the two things that for some reason get me the most.
Yeah, I don't like that. That definitely sucks. If it's like a whole like my arm got blown off, I'm like, hey, your arm got blown off for some reason. But if it's smaller things, I'm like, oh Jesus Christ.
So yeah, that trap in Saw where the dude was having all his limbs slowly bent all the way around. I was just like, nope, this is the worst one for me.
I don't remember. I stopped. Oh, God, I'm so tired of Saw. But I watched like the full franchise, and then I think they did like either a reboot. They did like Jigsaw.
Yeah, they keep bringing that series back for like one more. And
someone said the Chris Rock movie was actually not too bad. It wasn't actually bad. It was apparently.
I think that was Spiral.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think but I just stopped. I was done. I was so tired. I felt I was forcing myself to watch it because this is back when I was like, I have to finish if I'm gonna watch it, I'm gonna finish it to the end. And then I was like, I hate finishing this to the end. I was tired after the third movie.
I think I skipped Spiral after I watched Jigsaw, and I was just like, this movie's dumb. I don't like it.
Okay, so yeah, so I missed 2 movies then, and I'm happy I missed them. I don't feel like going back. So she gets like possessed in this elevator, getting literally the shit beat out of her by this thing. It's like throwing her around. She's still in like full, I guess, like cognitive control and everything.
Because she's not dead yet.
Yeah, she's not dead yet. She's still alive, but she's basically like, holy crap, what's going on? Like, I'm being mutilated right now by an elevator. And it's breaking parts of her body. It's throwing her around. And then finally, like, it lets her go. And she gets up and like gets the possession starts, and she goes to the door, and she's it's like she's
like shuffling around and stuff. Yeah, it's creepy.
And they let her in, and she's like trying to cook the eggs, and the eggs somehow the possession in like of the building has already begun. Like the eggs are already like screwed up. They're like blood in them and everything else.
That was like fucking creepy.
Yeah, I was like, how'd you do that already? And she gets is starting to fully like die, and her last words were like, protect my children.
Yeah, it's like it's she knew don't let it get my children.
Don't let it get my children. She knows what's happening, and unfortunately, plural, she says, and that doesn't really work out, unfortunately. But the idea of they're always reading from a book, and it's always just reading from a book. This one introduces something new. Because
not entirely, because in the first or second one, like it's very similar.
It was the second one. I think
it's very similar to how it happened in this movie, where like they play a recording of someone reading the book. Yes, that's like good enough to do the words again.
Yeah, or maybe that wasn't the 2013 one. I'm not sure.
I don't know, but I just I like that in the original movie they just like let it keep playing because they're like, this is fucking weird and creepy, whatever.
Yeah,
and they didn't know what was happening, but like. Literally almost immediately in this movie, the kid who's like playing it on his like awesome computer setup and everything with his like turntable, he tries to stop it, and it's just like some force is keeping the record needle like on the record, and it's like it just keeps playing even when he unplugs it and shit. Like
that was crazy. He couldn't even get it to. He couldn't lift the
So it was like there is no stopping this once it started.
Yeah, it was still going. The needle wouldn't go up. That's the needle. Cool thing. You know whose voice that was on the record?
That was I think that was Bruce Campbell, right?
That was Bruce Campbell.
I heard about that afterward, and I was like, that's fucking cool.
Yeah, I was like, cool, because for those that don't know, Bruce Campbell is done with Evil Dead. Yeah. He's not playing Ash anymore, and he has very good reason. He's like, I'm too old for this. I can't do this anymore. My body's not capable of doing this anymore. And that's why like when Ash vs. Evil Dead got canceled before its final season. Like it went 3 seasons, it was supposed to go 4. He just said, well, we tried, we did good enough, but that's it. I'm done. Goodbye. And that's the cool thing about this is he came back for this little thing, the little cameo, and all you had to do is probably going into an ADR room and just be like, do a little voiceover, which is nice.
Nothing physical. It's just like he's still included, but doesn't need to like strain himself and stuff.
Yeah. So I really enjoy that they did that. And the cool thing about it of just like, here's this church heresy that we're doing and we shouldn't be doing this. And we just want to see what it is. And I'm being, he's getting like seduced by it.
I love the idea. Yeah. He's like, think of all the things we could learn if we could like communicate with the dead and stuff like that. And then like the next recording is like, I was so wrong. I fucked up so bad.
Fucked up, guys. Yeah. And they fix it. And you learn like this is really
the
cool.
best they could do was literally hide the book in a vault under a building.
Yeah, I mean, but in a vault before, it was built over. And
that's right. It did used to be a bank, and it's just
even then, like that building was old too. So it's like how old this is, like old time Los Angeles, very, very old. And it's probably like a century, I guess, before the movie takes place, if not over a century. So it's really cool kind of seeing old time stuff, but in the West Coast. Because the whole thing about the West Coast is we're a lot more new compared to the East Coast. East Coast, you'll go there and it's like, hey, this building's been around since like 17 something or 18 something. And you come to San Francisco and it's like, this building's been around since 1920 because everything burnt down.
Yeah, you're lucky if you find something more than 100 years old.
Yeah, otherwise it was like 1849 people started coming here because of gold and stuff.
Yeah.
Hence 49ers and stuff. So we never really have been as new, and same with LA. Or any part of the West Coast, really, that was, even though the Spanish were here, they didn't like develop like the British did, I guess we'd say.
Yeah, they built a bunch of missions, and that was it.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we're gonna convert you. No, leave us alone, please. But like, they have that sense of like, it is old missionary style Catholics that did this. The whole thing, the way they sound and everything else, and when they finally get to everything going on, you're like, so an earthquake did this because San Andreas fault reveals this whole thing. What was his name? It was Danny, played by Morgan Davies, goes in there and he finds it, reveals all this stuff, and everything happens. But once it's done, you get to see like all the fun stuff, because you think there's not many people. What could possibly happen?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Well, the mother attacks her daughter, which was already bad enough. And she like, what did she hit her? Did she scratch her?
She had like a tattoo needle somehow. I don't know why they had that in their apartment.
But didn't she hit her with her own skin though? She did something where
she tried to she was like gonna lick the wound, because she was just like, oh, let mommy kiss it, make it better.
I think she still licked it though then, right?
Probably. I think that's how the infection got into the daughter.
Yeah. So like they kick her out and she kills all the neighbors. Like there's these two brothers that are there and you think, oh, will they be okay? No, they get like, the little one gets like thrown like a rag doll.
That was like the funniest shit was when she like bit that one dude's eye out and then spit it out into someone else's mouth, and it just like he chokes to death.
Yeah, he chokes to death on the eye, and then the white dude comes out with the gun, and you're like, oh, he can do it, and then he's like, no, they all get...
I was so hoping that he would make like a boomstick joke, but
yeah. No. So they all just get got immediately, and you're just like, holy crap, okay. The daughter's very quick with the turn there, and
hers was possibly more disturbing for me than the mom.
The glass?
Just like the thing where she starts like spinning up like black bugs and shit, and then like the next time you see her, she's just like hunched over the counter crunching on like this glass, like it was like a wine glass or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just like the sound of it, it's just like it's like so well done and creepy, and
but
just like the way
the look of the glass going down.
Yeah, and then they showed her swallow some glass and it's like poking its way down her throat, and it's just the way she turns and talks to her aunt, and it's just like, I need to eat the sharp things to kill the bugs in my stomach, or whatever, however she said it. Yeah, and I was just
she says tummy because
it's like, I don't like gross things in my tummy, and I was just like, oh, I don't like this. This is unsettling.
Yeah, this is not good. And the horror on their faces, because it's just like, oh crap, so it can spread like this. And who kills her? Her little sister with with the stick.
What do they call like, it had like a stupid pun name.
It was like the play horse, right?
Yeah, but it was like a doll. It was like a doll head that had a name. It was like Batney or something like that.
Yeah,
it was like I don't know.
It's funny because it was a deranged doll from a little girl who is like the one of the two people that don't get possessed. Yeah, which is ironic.
So, and like speaking of that like doll stick thing, like that that is one thing that I love about this movie that I noticed is they do a really good job of like specifically setting shit up for later.
Yeah.
Where it's like in the very beginning of the movie, like the kids go out for pizza and or I guess like early on in the movie, they go out for pizza and like they set up like, oh, the clicker for the garage is like doesn't work on the first time every time. And sometimes it's a very slow lifting thing, and like it makes a loud noise. And there happens to be a wood chipper in the basement. I bet that'll be important later.
Oh yeah, no,
like
you can tell the minute we see the wood chipper, we were just like, ooh.
Yeah, like the daughter is like playing with scissors in the beginning of the movie, and it's just like, are you playing with my scissors again? No. She throws it under the couch. It's just like, that's gonna come back.
Yeah.
So like they did a really good job of like setting shit up at one point, and like the moment that she's like playing with the stick doll thing, and like her older sister like breaks it accidentally, and it's now like a spike, and it's like, that's gonna that's gonna come back.
Yeah. God. And just the way it drives, because it goes through the mouth, out the back of her head, and you're just like, cool, it's done. No, that I think that was
I love it.
The like, 3 freaky parts. This
the brother even like ties down his sister's corpse because and like
he didn't do it
like,
well enough.
And the aunt's like, well, why'd you do that? It's like, I don't know, just in case.
And yeah, right.
Somehow she still gets back up.
She gets up and she's like a ghost. Like
that
like
was the creepiest thing.
We were just like, oh shit, watch out!
Yeah,
watch out.
The other kids are like walking down the hallway. Like I forget what they're like looking to investigate, but then like one more person comes around the corner and it's just like, oh shit, that's the sister. She's back up. Oh fuck.
Yeah, God, that was horrifying. And you know, she takes out her brother pretty much, but
stabbed him like right through the bicep.
Ugh. Yeah. And you know, he's even like, because he's sorry he fails his sister because she like one less person to protect her, but also and sorry like, that he started it all by accident. He didn't know. And there's a lot of influence from the 2013 movie in this, I feel like, because in that movie, when Ashley gets infected first, you know, one of the other girls there, she like throws up on her and that infects her. And then they have like, even though they lock her up, the friend is the one, just like the daughter in this, that now is free to roam, but like they don't expect her to turn. So then it's like, oh Jesus, what's happening? So you kind of get that thing, especially like what you perceive to be the main character's best friend in it, who's getting beat up like the whole movie, also is like, you know, I wasn't able to do everything, and gets his ass kicked by the woman in that, is similar to the brother getting attacked by the sister. So there's a lot of like mirroring from the 2013 one that I noticed. I'm sure it's like that maybe in Evil Dead 1, but I don't remember. It's been so long since I've seen the older movies. It's been like, I honestly think probably like 2012, 2013 was maybe the last time I saw it. So Jesus, almost 10 years at the very least since I've seen these movies. I don't even remember anymore. I haven't even seen 2013 since it was in theaters. I saw that
I saw like the one time and I was like, that was really great. That was fucking gross. I don't know if I ever want to watch it again.
I probably, now I think about it, because I do like monster type movies on Thursday still with some friends. Even with work, I'm still able to like do it afterwards.
That'd be worth a watch.
I think I got 4 Evil Dead movies and maybe 5, depending if this one comes out too. I can throw up on there and we could rewatch, which will be really fun. Yeah, so they do a good job with that. The other horror aspects, so we talked about 2 out of 3 of the top one. I guess there's 4 actually, because I forgot about the Rat King. But
oh yeah,
the first, like I said, is her kind of cleaning out of the side of the door, the mother. The second being the daughter getting up with the tarp still on her, and it's like horrifying. The third being like the mom realizes, because remember another foreshadowing. They talk about how there's a cat up in the vents.
Yeah.
And the cat keeps getting up there and they're just like, oh my God, this cat.
Oh yeah, that scene. Oh.
And the mother notices it in the hallway and it's like, oh crap, a cat.
Yeah,
and
that didn't go as,
oh, cool.
I thought she was gonna infect the cat and send a dead-eyed cat.
Oh, that was crazy.
But like it was somehow worse.
No, the cat got away, I think, too.
Yeah.
So she goes up into the vent. You're just like, no, well, where's the vent going to come out? And, you know, the siblings are dealing with each other because it's like sibling on sibling fight. And
but that's what it was. They saw the vent moving and they were like, what's that? And that was when
and they were focused on that. And that's when, that's when she snuck up on them. And while that was happening, the aunt, what was her name again? She's listening to she's trying to figure out how to stop everything. Beth.
Yeah.
And she has the headphones on, so she's completely drowned out of sound. And because of that, the vent is in that room, and in the corner you see it open, and you see her little head pop out, and you're just like, no,
it's so unsettling.
No. And you see her like crawl out and stuff, and she's like crawling on the wall. It's horrifying. It's absolutely horrifying. And she like is coming up to her, and she only sees her in the reflection of the window. And that like stops her from like getting completely snuck up on. But this actually is, I feel like, influenced by the movie Hereditary a little bit. James, I forgot you haven't seen that, right?
No,
but you're okay with me telling?
Yeah, that's fine. Like I feel like after a movie's been out for like 5 years, you kind of lose the rights to say like spoilers.
I can't believe you spoiled Goodfellas for me, you son of a gun.
No, like that's one of the, Hereditary was one of those movies that like everyone was saying like you gotta watch it, it's crazy. And then like if you don't,
not too crazy until it's like Tarantino crazy at the end. Like you know, everything's kind of calm until the end, and then you're like, holy shit. It was like that for Hereditary, where everything felt fine and then it was not fine at all. And you're like, we just went from like 3 to 10. Just like that. And you're like, oh my God. So just to get through this really fast, because this is why I freaked out when I saw this for Evil Dead. I saw Hereditary when I was still working at Microsoft, and it was like in between, finished my stuff, and then there was like a meeting, so I had time to go watch a movie, and I was at the Westfield. So I go to the Century there, and I go alone. There's like a few other people in the theater, and at the end, the mother in this movie gets possessed by the evil god demon, whatever that's in this movie. There's like a fucking god demon that you find out about like near the end. You're literally like, what is going on? And it's crazy because she like gets possessed the minute her husband bursts into flame because of this crazy magic of this stuff. And the only people alive left in this family were her, the husband, and their son, who's like a high schooler. And now it's just the mother and the son, but the mother's possessed. So the son is asleep because like all this crazy stuff happened right before this. But it wasn't as crazy what was about to happen. So the mother's possessed by this thing. And this is the first time there hasn't been a possession in this movie at all. It's just immediate, but you know she turned because it's like the eyes changed. It was like not like the color or anything, but like she freaks out and goes like dead-eyed first, like fully blank, and then like freaky, and you're like, okay, something just happened. So the son wakes up, is in his room. It's really dark. And then you go, yo, what is that? I feel like there's something there in the corner. There's something darker than the regular dark, and it doesn't look right. And then you look closer, like people in the theater like leaning forward, and it's the mom in the corner of the ceiling behind him. And he's like woken up and he's looking around just like, oh, it's weird. It's super quiet. And she's just there. And you're like, oh, hell no. To the point of the people next to me are literally going, oh, hell no. And I'm like, I know. And he's getting up and he's looking like the camera pans on him and he's like looking towards like, I guess like the camera kind of like looking around. Behind him is her swimming through the air, like swimming through the air. And it's horrifying, absolutely horrifying. She's like crawling up the wall first for a second because she's just like in the wall. And then she's like swimming through the air behind him. And you're like, what the hell? And she leaves the room and it's super weird. And then he gets out of the room and then she starts chasing him and it's like a whole thing. And then there's naked people. It's really weird. You just gotta watch the movie and then you'll be like, what? But it's definitely just like a horrifying thing where you're just like, it's so freaky. And it's worse than a jump scare because it's like you see the impending doom, but the main character doesn't. but it's also something that could happen where it's like, dude, it's the full unawareness that's horrifying. Because it's like in your situation, if you're the one in the situation and you don't know that, that's scary as hell. So they did this with her, and I was like, dude, that was probably the second scariest thing. Next to the just her peering around the corner. So I thought that was really well done. All the fighting I thought was good. I don't know if there was anything specific besides I want to talk about the garage, but before that, anything in the room that you feel like there's more before we move on?
No, I mean we covered most of it. Like I liked that I thought the son might get away, or whatever, but no, he died.
He dies and joins.
But I do like that he kind of makes like a makeshift flamethrower to try to like get his sister off of him and stuff.
Yeah.
And then just like the fight to the elevator in the end, or towards the end, where the aunt like picks up the shotgun, she's like blowing people away, like that was pretty cool.
Yeah, because it's then, like, oh, the rest of the floor now is everyone's infected. Like she infected everyone, so they're all like, yeah.
I also liked the callbacks to like some of the lines from the previous movies, like "Dead by Dawn" and "I'll swallow your soul," because it's like I was already enjoying the movie and was just like, this is really good. I like it. And like, I didn't think it really needed too many more connections to the previous movies, but just like having those like cool iconic lines show up was really fun.
Yeah. And then we've had, I guess you could say, 3 bosses. Each book has like a boss almost in a way. But the one we get in the first book is like really just the evil Ash, the evil clone that like grows and turns into like a skeleton version of him.
There was like a large demon that showed up at the end of the second movie, like when he was like that was what sucked him into the medieval times, where like
that's what it was. Okay,
he opened a portal, and like the idea was like if he said like the right magic spell, it would bring forth like the physical form of the evil demon, and he could kill it and end that stuff. And then it's just like he did that, but then he just got like sucked into
medieval times as well. Yeah. Okay, so Evil Dead 2 has that. Evil Dead 2013 has that as well when that thing comes out, and that's horrifying. Yeah. This one, they do it differently. This one, they're like, hey, what if everyone started merging together and putting their hands into each other? And they basically combine, I think, most of the body parts of a lot of
them. It was almost like how the necromorphs work in Dead Space, where it's just like, eventually it's just like dead biomass to use to make whatever. And I mean, it didn't go that far in this movie, but it literally was just like stitching together body parts, just like holding themselves together to make like a big ass creepy thing. It's just like a bunch of limbs and shit.
It was horrifying, and it was akin to the Last of Us 2 Rat King boss. That's
especially
in, like,
having the hospital. I especially liked having like the mom is like the central head of the body, and then there's like flanking her were like the son and daughter. So it's just like the family is all together.
Yeah, you can't escape family, and it's like, oh god, we got to get away from the family. Yeah, and that's where the chainsaw and the wood chipper come in, and it's glorious the way they just like have that occur. But dude, the design of like
so unsettling.
Who was the concept artist that said, oh yeah, what if we draw them together, like just have them all put together? And you're just like, who thought this? Who made this? Like,
dude, I love the touch of like the deadite, like the Rat King, like turns on the wood chipper, and you think that like, oh shit, the aunt's gonna like lose a leg or an arm or something, and like literally the little girl is like desperately trying to flip the switch because she's like too small and like really doesn't have the strength to do it, and she gets it just in time. It's just like, oh my god.
Yeah, god, that was crazy. That was, but they did, oh my god, it was such a good job. Honestly, dude, Evil Dead Rise is probably my number 3 movie of the year so far. I think I really appreciated that movie.
I liked it a lot more than I was expecting. Like I said in the beginning of this, my worst fear was that it was going to be like just a money grab. And it's just like, oh, hey, we haven't made like a surefire winner in a while. What's a well-known IP that we haven't done in a while that people aren't tired of and might want to go see again? And oh, Evil Dead, sure, why not? Let's make another one of those. And thankfully, it actually was good. Like they got me from the beginning when they did the like exact, first person camera flying through the forest thing, and I was like, oh, immediately this feels like an Evil Dead movie. And the funny thing is, I was like, man, I wonder how they did this back in the day, because like I know there's probably like interviews where they explain that shit, but like I was like, man, now that they're doing it today, they're probably doing this with the drone, and it literally turns out to be a drone. It's just like the boyfriend of like the possessed girl from the beginning of the movie is just like he brought his drone to the cabin, and it was just like,
yeah,
oh, that's fucking hilarious. It literally wasn't drone footage.
God, very clever, very clever.
Yeah,
But yeah, overall, great time. Honestly, another movie you should see in a theater for sure.
absolutely.
This is so worth it. See John Wick first because that's gonna leave sooner before it's too late. It might
Yeah.
already be gone. I'm not even sure because it came out in March.
I checked this weekend, and like there was still at least a few showings each day, like in a
Okay.
handful of theaters. So you probably have like at least 1 or 2 weeks left.
Okay. Gotcha. But I think that's all the time we have. Uh, yeah, we got really into these movies. Plus, I kept
Yeah.
going into side tangents of like crap. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. We will be back, like I said, next week. But first, once again, you can email us at sutrosidetalk@gmail.com. Send us feedback, comments, or questions if you want us to answer questions for future episodes and stuff, topics, whether it's, the Marvel movies that we're about to watch and talk about, the games like the Burning Shores, Iki Island, eventually Hogwarts Legacy, maybe I guess Tears of the Kingdom 2, because James will want to talk about that. And I'll be like, no way.
Yeah.
So there'll be a lot of that stuff. And, eventually some more anime because we'll have Demon Slayer to talk about. But otherwise, next week for sure is going to be, or sorry, I'll just continue like everything else first. Subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to or watching. If it's Apple Podcasts, please give us a 5-star review. If it's Spotify, please rate us. You can also, I noticed there's a lot of new Spotify features I have to look into now because they merged with like Anchor. So I have to look into that. Like I said, I also have to look into solving why only 100 episodes are shown at a time. So each time I put out a new episode, that means the oldest episode on there gets taken off of both of those platforms, if not more platforms. For now, at least, I believe you could still listen to almost everything on Podbean's, like the Podbean app itself. Over time, everything will be on YouTube. Over time, it's going to take it's not going to be anytime soon that everything will be there, but now that I've tried with the Star Wars special that we put out, it'll either be like filler weeks if we can't do something, I'll throw out a retro episode, or it'll be like maybe I want to start doing 2 episodes a week again, like we used to do with Sutro Sidewatch and Cut of Steel always coming out. So I could start putting out like either an order of release, like I could start with episode 1 and just get all the older ones out first, or I might throw on some of the Cut of Steel ones that are gone now too, but we'll see how it goes. Otherwise, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, you could subscribe to those on at Sutro Sidetalk, all one word. Sorry, I didn't have any time this week because we're working some other stuff to get on TikTok, just because it was late, and I'm like, I don't know if I should post these that late, but hopefully this week, starting tomorrow, I should be able to get some in. And then, yeah, I think that's, and follow James at InvaderJim124 on Twitter, and follow me at GoGoComzilla on Twitter. Sorry, I'm like kind of spacing out in my head, trying to like make sure I remember everything. For some reason, I'm forgetting everything this time. But next week for sure. So for sure next week is our Marvel episode. That'll be Ant-Man 3. That'll be Guardians 3. Ryan from Across the Bifrost will be there. And after that, what will either happen is, because I'll be gone for a week for a wedding in Atlanta, we'll either have an episode covering Iki Island and Burning Shores. If we beat those in time, we basically have like a week to do that.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll try my best, but like
neither of us have started. So,
yeah, like I might be able to get one of those done in time, but we'll see, because I've heard Burning Shores is like kind of short unless you want to do all the side quest stuff, but like I don't remember how long Iki Island is.
Yeah, so we'll do that. If not, I'm still haven't had a chance yet, but now that at first I got a list of Star Wars podcasts to really see if we could do crossovers with, but I'm going to do the same thing with DC and Marvel. I'm going to see specifically for DC if I can find someone to do a Black Adam Cut of Steel episode. If we can do that, we'll do that instead, and we'll have that out instead next week, because I don't think we'll have time to do both necessarily, because we're already recording the Marvel episode and one of those 2 next week if we can.
Yeah.
And worst case scenario, if we can't do either of those, I will put out basically our second retro episode, which will probably be our very first episode, if if that's possible. If not, I mean, if anything, I might just put it out anyway if we get one of those in, and that'll just buffer in a little bit extra, but we'll just see what happens. So yeah, that's the plan, guys. Otherwise, hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll catch you all next week. So long.
Thanks for listening.